Welcome to the Fighting on Film podcast, the podcast all about classic and obscure war movies, from the Normandy landings to the days of chivalry and swords. If it's been captured on film, we're going to try and cover it. I'm Robbie of RM Military History.
I'm Matthew Moss of Historical Firearms and the Armourer's Bench.
Hello, Robbie here. Did you know you can support the podcast on Patreon? Join the supporting cast today and gain access to exclusive perks, such as discount codes, our monthly Patreon film votes, and the chance to get exclusive merchandise before anyone else. Search Fighting on Film on Patreon or find the link on our website. Thank you. Now back to the show. Hello, welcome back to Fighting on Film. I'm a bit ill, you might hear it in my voice, but we're going to continue on because we went to see Sisu last week, didn't we, Matt?
We did, and what an experience it was.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a weird one. So at FOF HQ, we were looking for a way to see Sisu because we were so excited from watching the trailer a few months back. And I managed to get us on the list for a press screening in London. And the email
we were just hoping for a little press screener so we could watch it and review it. Little did we know we'd be heading down to London down to London very quick.
Yeah. Like the day after we recorded with Alan James for the Dam Busters episode that came out last week. It was a hectic week. We were all running around, weren't we?
We were.
But it was lovely. And, it was very lovely to be invited down. Thanks very much for the people at Sony Pictures for the tickets. This is going to be a little brief review of the movie. It's not going to be as in-depth as our normal episodes because at time of recording, the film's not even out yet.
Although it's been out in Europe for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has in America.
America
came out
too.
first.
So we're kind of like the last market to get it.
We're very late on the uptake, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I said there, it's released by Sony Pictures UK over here, and it comes out on the 26th. So by the time you're listening to this, hopefully it's at a cinema near you and you can go and watch it. And there will be spoilers in this review, but we're going to have a definite break. We'll warn everyone when the spoilers are going to begin. So you could probably listen to the first half of this and not have much ruined, I'd say.
I would say so, because we just want to talk about the tone, the vibe, our general thoughts about the film before we talk about some specific stuff.
Depends what you regard as a spoiler, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, it does. If you're worrying about spoiling of plot, if you watch the trailer, you basically already know the plot.
Yeah, the plot is very simple.
Former Finnish commando who is out gold prospecting, finds the motherlode, and some pesky Nazis get in the way.
Yeah,
between him and getting to the bank.
I mean, they don't really get in the way. He just passes them, doesn't he? He's unfortunate with who he bumps into.
He is.
Very.
I mean, when we were watching it, I did think, could you not just go cross country here? You can see that tank. You could detour, surely.
I mean, he was just playing it off, wasn't he? Just playing it cool.
So just before we jump into it all, I'll mention that it was directed by Jalmari Helander, who has directed with Rare Exports in 2010 and Big Game in 2014, which I think had Sam Jackson in.
That's it,
a wilderness film. And I did read an interview where he talked about some of his influences, and I found it really fascinating because when we watched it, we immediately both thought spaghetti western, didn't we? We watched it and we thought this is kind of an homage to spaghetti westerns.
Has a real vibe
and those 60s, 70s European lower budget war movies,
like the Euro war stuff, like the Italian war movies, weird ones,
and it definitely has that vibe. But he was talking about his influences in an interview I read with a Finnish paper, and he talks about Rambo extensively, and I can see that totally. So Jorma Tomila is the titular Sisu. I think his name in the film is Almaty.
Or Koshi the Immortal. It's not really a spoiler, but that's what characters call him in the movie, or it's what he's been dubbed.
Yeah, the Immortal, and he plays a strong silent type.
Yeah,
very much
really
like
is.
Rambo.
Yeah,
and one of the interesting things, it's not a spoiler, that he mentioned in that interview was when he was shopping the idea of the film around, even before production had begun, he took it to Netflix, and they wanted a big action sequence to open the film. And he specifically said he refused to do that and work with Netflix because he wanted that Rambo-like introduction. You know, how Rambo's just seen, walking through, the forests into the town, and he encounters the police, etc., etc. There is no big set piece in Vietnam that sets him up as a veteran. You can see he's a veteran from what he's wearing. So that's kind of what he's done. What Helander's done with the beginning of this film. He doesn't give us the big action set piece. Now, this guy is immortal and he's a commando.
See, now you've said that, this episode will also go out before Netflix's Blood and Gold's coming out, which seems like a very similar-ish style. So interestingly enough, that's coming out the same day as Sisu in this country, at least. I wonder if that's maybe a link there. But I wonder if that'll open with a big set piece now that we know that.
I bet it does. I bet
maybe they lost Sisu and they thought, oh, the plot of that Sisu is quite
German film looks good.
Yeah. let's do something similar, but let's copy their homework, but not enough.
Movie studios never done that before, Robert.
Never. What? No, I'm not saying Netflix at all would do that at all.
No, or
we didn't apply to watch that early at all, did we? Completely forgot I'd applied to watch that early. Cut that out. But anyway, no, it's interesting, isn't it? I do wonder if Blood and Gold will start like that now. But yeah, it's a very strong movie, and I can't remember the budget. What was the budget? I
think it's about €6 million, the budget.
Okay. Well, they use it well, I've got to admit.
They do, and that's big for a Finnish movie. So
very.
I think the average Finnish production is about maybe 3-4 million.
Okay.
And I think this is one of the bigger budgeted action movies that they've done.
The only other work that I know the director from, I think I was telling you in the foyer before we went in, was he worked on a Finnish comedy called like Finnish Commando or something Commando, where it's like a Finnish guy who lives in America
Was it Sunshine Commando?
Something like that. He goes home to see his
wasn't it? I remember you
family,
saying.
And there's a clerical error or something, and he gets put in the Finnish army or something.
Yeah.
It sounds really funny. Or it sounds like they're, it's ripe for a sort of British or US remake. I can see that happening. It'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a director playing to his strengths, because I know the big game film sort of feels like this as well. Very big set pieces that come a sort of journey road type movie as well. It very feels like there's a lot of movement. It never feels.
And
like
I think
really
from the way he was talking in that interview that I mentioned, he very much actually originally wanted Big Game to be a little harder in tone than what it turned out to be. I haven't actually seen it, but from what I've read, it's not as hardcore as he wanted it to be.
Jovial, I remember.
Yeah, there's bits where I think he wanted it to be a bit more like Die Hard or something like that. He mentioned.
I get it.
For me, the big takeaway was it was exactly what it wanted to be.
Yeah. If you've seen the trailer or if you've seen any promotional stuff,
it's not a war movie.
No, not really.
I would say it's not a war movie. It's a movie set during
a war. Yeah.
A war,
Yeah.
And God knows we've had plenty of those. And it's in that ilk. It's in that subgenre of movies that are set during the Second World War, and they just tend to unfold within that. And we only get a couple of glimpses of the wider war. We see a Stuka appears. That might be a spoiler.
Yeah.
If you,
I don't think it's a big spoiler.
If you want to get excited about the Stuka appearing, it's a spoiler.
It is a good bit. I must admit,
it is.
We're not going any further.
And we see some Finnish troops at the end as well, and they're the few times that we see the wider
But they don't
war.
do anything. The Finnish troops. That's not a spoiler, by the way. They're just there for whatever reason. You get a nice little setup of the war on a little nice animated map at the start, and then there's some narration.
Trope.
Yeah. They're very good. It's a good use of the trope, though. I've got to admit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then there's some narration that sets up the story, and you're pretty much with. He's not called Sisu, is he? You're pretty much with our silent protagonist through the whole movie. He only has, not spoiler to say this, not even that, really. Most of it is grunts and screams, I've got to
Yeah.
admit.
And
In anger.
physically, I mean, physically, he conveys a lot
Mm,
in just, in physical acting terms. You aren't bereft of dialogue. When there is dialogue, I think Helander uses it really well.
mm.
There's a sequence, I think it was in one of the trailers, where there's a minefield and the lead Nazi played by Axel Henny turns to, I
Yes.
think it's Jack Doolan's character. He's like a German sergeant, and he says, "Exactly how many mines did we bury here?" And Doolan turns to him and goes, "All of them." And
Yes.
then someone blows up, stands on a mine. And
Yeah.
that sequence, that entire sequence is insane. We'll talk about that
Oh,
after
it's
the spoiler cut.
brilliant. Yeah, we've got to
Um,
talk about that in the spoiler section. It's probably it was one of the. I mean, in the cinema, this is a great thing to see something like this with a room full of with reviewers and influencers and
yeah,
whatever.
just to see it
Um,
on a big screen is good,
oh,
and not it be
at
a
home
streaming film
on
where you watch it at
PC,
home.
yeah,
Yeah,
or on your telly. Yeah, no, it's great. Really does something. This is the sort of film I would say to people: please don't wait till it comes out on Prime or something.
yeah.
Go and see it in the cinema. Treat yourself. It's one of those. It is a real adventure type. Leave your
Mm.
brain at the door. Get some popcorn. Get a beer. Get some nachos. Just enjoy it. It really is one of those
Oh,
kind of
I was
movies.
livid. I didn't get any popcorn
Oh,
before I went in.
Matt was crying.
Oh, someone walked past me with some, and I was like, "Oh fuck, Rob!
See,
I should have got some."
They were kind enough to put on some free Camden Hells for us all before we went in. So we had a
Hmm.
couple of cans of them, and we got a bit loose. We were excited. And then Matt sits down, and these people are coming in with big popcorns and stuff. And Matt just nudges me like every time. Like, I should have got some popcorn. And she goes, "So you can go and get some. No one's stopping you. You've got money. You're in your 30s. Like, come on, come on. Don't need to tell you." Like, I'm the younger one there. Like, he's like trying to get like the okay from me. And all the way through, he was just going like, just like sort of wishing he had some fucking popcorn.
As you know, you joined us for the review of Sisu.
Yeah, exactly. But I just thought,
Not my disappointment in not
final
getting
Phil
popcorn.
squabbles. We
Yeah.
got our foibles. We got to highlight it when we do. Give the fans some behind the scenes look there. But no, it was very very enjoyable. What
It
else is
was,
there?
and I'm so glad it's getting a wide
Same here.
cinema release.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that stood out in some of the Finnish reviews and articles about the film that I read was I think this is an exceptionally large distribution for a Finnish movie.
Yes,
Was
it's got to
something
be
that
one of the
came up time and
biggest.
time again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean everything about it screams like universal release to
Mm,
multiple audiences because there's nothing that really sort of holds this back from an audience. You don't have to know anything about the continuation war because it's kind of irrelevant to the story.
mm.
You don't really have to know anything about the Second World War. All you have to know is the Nazis are the bad guys in this movie, and our silent protagonist is the good guy, I guess. He's
Yeah.
been wronged.
Yeah.
He's the character that's been wronged. He's the
Mm.
protagonist. The Nazi's the antagonist. He wants to get this gold to a bank. That's your plot. And it's so simple.
Basically, before we move into the spoiler segment of the show, I, instead of getting a retro review, obviously because it isn't out yet, I thought we'd get some reviews from its country of origin, some Finnish reviews, and I got a couple, and I thought I'd share them with you. And this one's from Italete, which is a Finnish tabloid. It came out in January, and it says, Zisu's action scenes are not only witty but also funny. Master photographer Kel Lugrus has masterfully captured the beauty of Lapland's wilderness on the big screen. The special effects work perfectly and look flawless. The film's violence is extreme, but at the same time so cartoonish and exaggerated that it is already on the side of black humor.
Yeah, you
And
can't say fairer than that.
I think that captured it really well.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then there was another review which I also thought was really good, which came out at the end of January. And I'm just going to butcher the name of the publication. It was Kulttuuri Toimitus. Probably should
Okay.
say that a little bit faster, but that is
Sorry to
my
all the Finnish
best.
listeners there.
That's right. That's my best attempt at that Finnish
I'm going to send Matt to a
publication's name.
gulag for all these awful pronunciations. 10
Um,
years, gulag.
Fucking hell. Jesus Christ.
To quote my friend. If you're listening, you'll know who you are.
Good Lord. Dish is handsome even by international standards and does not give any impression of cheap kitchen decoration. This has been machine translated, by the way, but it still carries.
Yep.
The landscapes of Lapland serve as a wonderful background. The story of a lone survivor is indeed a Finn Western made in the spirit of an Italian Western. In the rhythm, I would have liked a little more acceleration and elevation in the last half hour. So I think, obviously, that's been machine translated.
No, I get it. I get it.
But it carries across, doesn't it? And that's an interesting critique about the last half hour, which I don't know. I thought the climax was good.
It doesn't dip. I just think there's so much going on that anything you do near the end is sort of going to be not an anti-climax, that's the wrong word, but because you've seen this balls to the wall, brutal action slugfest.
It's hard to have like a final climax where it jumps above the level that it's been at throughout the whole film.
Exactly. You know, to go any further, you'd have to have like Nazis in space or something. You know, it's sort of, where do you go?
Nazis in space.
Yeah, it's like
They've done that actually.
They have done that. Yeah, I can't stand those movies. By the way, if you like them, sorry, but I hated those Nazi space. It was a weird film. You know what I mean, don't you?
I can't remember the name of it either.
Yeah, I can't remember. I expunged that from my memory when I watched it. It's dreadful. Yeah, you get to a certain point. It's like, where can you go? What can you do? And I think they stick the landing. It's fine.
I absolutely do. I thought the climax had genuine humor to it, and it worked.
Yeah, it was funny, and the antagonists are, or one of them's thoroughly unlikable enough for you to want him to have a demise anyway. And we're straying
on that note.
We're straying into spoiler sequence.
Yeah, I think on that note, we can move into talking a little bit more specifically about certain scenes.
So here's your spoiler warning. The sirens are going off. It's all going mad here at 4th HQ. If you want to go and watch Sisu with no more than our general thoughts, then don't listen any further than this.
So I think a good place to start would be to talk about the spaghetti western influences, because there was a number of scenes that really, I think, drew heavily on those, Sergio Leone sort of classic spaghetti westerns. There's one scene that really stood out to me was the scene where the protagonist is hung, and the protagonist is captured by the Nazis, and they string him up outside of a destroyed petrol station. And the way that was shot, the mood and the approach to it really screamed spaghetti western. And
they did.
You have the jeopardy of, oh my god, is he going to die? Is this like how he's going to meet his end? And the payoff and the way he escapes from that is gruesome, more gruesome than anything a spaghetti western did.
Oh yeah. Well, there's only so much you can get away with. I get what you mean when you say that whole sequence is very western. Even when they hang him and you've got the three main Germans of the tank, who's the commander, the driver, and then Jack Doolan's sniper guy, and they're walking away. That's very much like the Outlaws have caught the goodie and they've strung him up to a tree and they're walking off triumphantly. It's very much that. You've seen it. If you've seen a Western, you've seen it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Even down to so the film's in chapters. We didn't mention that at the start. And the chapters are Gold, Nazis, Minefield, Scorched Earth. They're all like that. They're all named. What's coming up. And yeah, that's it. Even in like a font, very westerny 60s font,
very much so. Yeah,
burnt orange, like color.
I've seen lots of people liken it to Tarantino movies, but again, Tarantino's very much influenced by those kind of films, pulp films.
Pulp. Yeah. I think I personally think the Tarantino connection is lazy of reviewers and clickbait
I think it's
articles.
possibly all they think of, when they immediately see
Personally,
it. But I mean, I think it's shared influence,
I
and
do,
that's what
yeah,
that's what it
massively.
is.
You know,
Um,
it's sort of like that bit in Inglorious Bastards where they walk into the cinema from the balcony and they start gunning everyone down, and you keep chunks taken out of Hitler's head, but it's not. That's
mhm,
not really what's happening. Like that was a bit of a damp squib for me, the last bit of Inglorious Bastards. But whatever, we'll get into that when we do it.
we will.
But no, I like the film, but that part of it pissed me off because I'm like, don't show me something that's not fucking happening. I hate it in movies when they do that. Can't stand it. Like faking out your audience, I think is cheap. Don't do it. Unless there's like an actual reason for it. Don't do that to your audience. I think it's mean.
Mm, mm.
Anyway, that's my. I have an
Well,
issue with
Zissou
that.
doesn't do that, so
No,
thankfully
Sisu doesn't do that at
we
all, and
can't
that's
level
lovely.
that critique
It
at it.
never it never fakes you out. It never tries to show you like you ever even feel that Corpy, the main guy, your
Yeah,
main fella, isn't gonna win. And that's what I like about it. Really, I think that's one of my inherent loves was that I never felt like this dude was gonna like not win the day, and I kind of love that. You don't really
yeah.
get that in movies anymore. There's always
Mm,
like a big oh no, is he gonna be okay? Like the minute
yeah.
they hung him, I'm thinking, hey, get out of this somehow.
He's not gonna die because you've just seen him on fire.
Exactly. Yeah, he's just set himself alight to escape.
The man has Captain America'd it with a gold pan.
Yeah,
He
exactly. Yeah,
has held his breath underwater for 20 minutes. He's been on
yeah.
fire. Hanging him's not going to get him.
He survived the blast of a stick grenade.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
survived his horse stepping on a landmine.
yeah, that's fucking insane. By the
That
way,
was that was brutal. That was that. I mean, let's talk about that sequence.
yeah. Let's talk
That
about the
whole
minefield.
minefield sequence was insane,
It's so
and
good.
the way it ramped was incredible because he manages to bypass the Germans. He kills several of them and gets past them because the tank's gone ahead.
Mm,
And he reaches a minefield that the Germans have laid behind them, and his horse steps on a mine,
yeah,
and his horse is obliterated. And there's some very good practical effects,
very good.
um, some good CGI, but there's some very good practical effects of when the dust settles, and the horse has obviously been
In bits.
eviscerated. It's very graphic.
Yeah, very. Um, but no one was expecting it either.
No, and the sound
Which is
design
nice. Oh,
of
I
that
mean,
concussion
go to the
in the
cinema and
cinema was
see it
incredible.
just for the sound design of that. Like it felt like the ground was shaking.
Mm,
Everyone near us was one, they were shocked, but then they were laughing like frightened laughs and things. It was such an interesting audience reaction. But then the minefield scene then ramps even more because you're like, well, we've just seen a horse explode. Like, where can we
yeah,
go
how's
from
it going to get
here?
worse than that?
Yeah. So the tank turns up with the commander in it, and they have to obviously go and they want to get the gold from our
Yeah,
man. So he sends his troops through the minefield, but it's done in a really sort of he just points, he goes, you, and then you see
yeah.
these German troops like psych himself up to run through a minefield. And a guy steps on a mine and explodes. But then Sisu, he's not called Sisu. Well, it's like Zelda. When you're like, oh, then Zelda does this. It's not Zelda, it's fucking Link. But no, it's not. In the art terms, it's not Zizu, it's Corpy or Atami Corpy, or whatever his bloody name is. They don't say it enough in the movie, by the way.
They don't say it
Um,
at all. They say it
no,
like
they
twice, don't
don't.
they?
Thank God for Wikipedia and IMDb, for we know the actual guy's name. But our man, I'm gonna keep saying that, aren't I? Really, our man in Finland.
It
Um,
works.
he throws a mine, uses it as like a grenade. It's great. Never seen that in a movie.
No, and numerous other Nazis get blown up, and he somehow manages to get away.
Yeah,
Um, and it doesn't really dip from there on, does it?
no,
In
it
terms
just
of
keeps going and going and going,
yeah,
and you're never really in a lull as an audience member. I don't think with this one, like if you're watching it at home, you could pause it and go make a cup of tea, but I don't think you'd want to.
no,
Um,
and it's very fast paced. So
Very, yeah. If you like John
but
Wick, if you like Nobody, if you like films like that, if you're an action
mm,
fan as well, you'll like this one.
yeah, when the lights came up, I was surprised at how quickly that
Mm,
hour and a half had passed.
yeah, 90 minutes,
There was no dips,
perfect
there was no
timing.
lag.
no.
And I would say this is a far better film than John Wick, the last one, 4.
John Wick 4. I haven't seen John Wick 4 yet.
I saw it in cinemas, and I enjoyed this far more for what there's some great parts of John Wick 4, and we aren't a action movie podcast.
Not yet.
Although,
When we've exhausted war
not yet.
movies, we might have to stray into it a
I
bit.
don't think we're ever going to exhaust
No,
war
we're
movies.
not. No. Death Wish
but
December will be upon us.
yeah. But I think really, in terms of filmmaking, this is a better film than John Wick 4. I feel like it is. It knows
We're
what it wants
definitely
to
seeing
be
the
better.
John Wick effect on
Absolutely.
this one.
Yeah,
very much so. But then I think it, as Matt said earlier, it's more of a homage to those Hollywood westerns of the strong silent type, Clint Eastwood era of westerns, where the main guy is the good guy. There's some bad guys, and the bad guys are going to get their asses whooped, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
I think one of the reviews I read with the guy was like, sometimes you just want to watch a movie with Nazis getting their heads caved in for 90 minutes. Like, what more do you want?
Well, this is
agree.
it. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
It really is. And there's no B plot. There's no love plot. There's no anything. There's a group of women in it that have been horribly sexually assaulted by the Nazis at the start. But by the end, they're taking names and they're just as
there's some feel good retribution.
Very. Yeah. And they feel like they could have their own movie now. The way they're treated. They have their very cool Western sort of Magnificent Seven-esque walking through,
come out of the smoke.
Yeah, with their MP40s and Mosins and Lugers in their boots. Very cool. And they get their retribution back on the man that had had his way with one of them earlier. Really nice imagery, some lovely editing. The tank's wrong, but who cares?
T-55, I believe, we think.
Dressed up, and it looks, from a distance, in some sequences, it's just SPG, really. It could be.
Yeah. I mean, it's also a trope, isn't it?
It's a bit,
it's
really.
A trope.
It could be a trope. It could
tank,
be.
But that's really absolutely fine. Yeah, because, as I said at the beginning, this isn't a war film. It's not a serious war film. It doesn't intend to be. It's far-fetched that there's no way someone could light themselves on fire and survive and then jump into some water. I would have loved to have seen them.
I would have loved to have seen them, and maybe if there's a Sisu 2, there's been rumblings of the director saying, well, if Sisu 1 does well, make another. I would have loved to have seen them accidentally stumble into the front lines and have these guys in like fixed positions or something see our man do what he's doing on his own. Like that would have been very funny to see. I'm sure it would have been interesting to film or have see on film, but there's scope for more. From what they talk about his background and him being this uncontrollable Finnish commando going out on his own, that they couldn't control him, they couldn't tell him no, so he went off and did these crazy missions on his own. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a sort of Dirty Dozen-esque film with loads of different types of allied commandos being nuts. I think there's more than enough room for that now. We love those movies in the 60s and 70s. We don't make them now, and this really feels like if Dirty Dozen comes out in 67, Sisu could come out in like 1969 or like 1966 or something, totally. And it would fit.
Yeah. The action genre, the way it's been revived by the John Wick effect, owes a lot to that kind of period as well. It does. Grittiness, slightly over the top, dynamic movement. I mean, obviously now it's hyper dynamic.
It's crazy. It's a sensory overload of some of that at times.
I would agree. Yeah.
Especially some of the explosions and some of the sound that goes with it. Gosh, like it really was like Jesus. It's a bit much.
Yeah, and there's a great dog in the film too.
Oh, the dog, cute.
Changing tack slightly, but there is. The dog's great.
The dog survives, by the way. Yep. Yeah. Like me and Matt were scurryingly writing notes while we were watching. We both put dog survives at the top of our notes.
We both wrote dog is good.
Dog is good. I put dog count at mine. I put 0, which was nice.
Nice.
Well, the dog hides. The dog just runs off. Like
the dog is sensible. The dog does very what sensible. Dogs
Not like John Wick's
do.
Dog that gets kidnapped every 5 minutes. John, stick a lead on that motherfucking thing. Christ. Yeah. But it's also nice for me and Matt, and this is a very odd thing for us to mention, but I think we'd be amiss not to talk about it. It's that Jack Doolan's character, he uses a scoped K98, and he's a
It's
left-handed
true.
shooter.
He is. He's using it from the as a
Yeah,
left-hander, and that speaks to us obviously because
me
we
and Matt
both
are
shoot
lefties.
left-handed. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's we're real niche within a niche.
Oh,
Firearms
right.
users that are lefties. And then me and Matt both nudged each other when he was reloading in the weird sort of cack-handed way you have to do it when you use a bolt
Mm.
on your left. You either hold it into your shoulder with one arm and then load it, or you sort of hold it with one arm and then do the other. It's very awkward to look at. So when we were
Hmm.
seeing it from a distance, we were like, is he doing that left-handed? Because I'm probably one of the few people
He
that know what
was.
that looks like. And then Matt was like, Rob. I think Matt even got kicked in the back of his chair for talking to
I
me.
did.
And I turned around and I gave them a glare. So I was like,
Did
don't
they
be
have popcorn,
mean.
Rob?
I can't remember now.
Bet they
Should have
did, the
nicked it from should
bastards.
have taken it from
Bet
them.
they
But
did. Um,
this is the
I,
Armor's
I,
Bench here. Excuse me. Do you know this is an influencer right here? This is YouTube's
um,
second best firearms channel.
wow. Woof.
Forgotten Weapons. Well, this is the British version. All right. How dare you?
Oh my word. Um, the last thing that I've got on my notes here is Chekhov's bomb, which
Chekhov's bomb. Yeah.
refers to the climax of the film, where our protagonist and antagonist find themselves on board a Dakota, a Soviet
A
Dakota.
Soviet Dakota. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
never. I know they
um,
had him, didn't they?
they did, yeah,
They have
but
him.
I think they did, as far as I
Well, he
remember. I think
makes a
they got
deal,
some
doesn't he, to get
lend
out of the
lease.
country,
He
doesn't
does,
he? And
yeah.
they were called Liz. Apparently, they were called Lizunov Li-2s.
Okay,
Apparently, probably
okay.
butchering that, but yeah. And apparently, the Soviet Union received its first DC-2 in 1935, and then they started to make their own. What's this? What's this thing we've been given? Quick, reverse engineer it and don't order any more.
They'd never do that.
They never do
Um,
that. Max, can I have my blueprints back? What blueprints? We don't have any.
oh mate, they did it with Gatling guns as well.
Gatling.
They
That's what I was thinking.
literally,
I was thinking of Gatling.
they,
No, sorry,
they
not
did. They
Maxim.
renamed them Gorloffs
Yeah.
after the superintendent of the factory that looked after like the
No,
manufacturing.
I'd like it a lot if you could pay that money to me, Mr. Gatling. I'd love to have some money. No, we have reverse engineer. You'll leave country Annapolis. That's how it went down. I'm pretty sure.
Probably. Oh, long history.
They come for the reviews. They stay for my mad
They
insights
stay
into
for the
history.
accents. Yeah. I hope Sony Pictures listens to this and goes, God, it was definitely worth inviting them down, wasn't it?
Give these boys more screeners. If anyone from MGM could give us one for the Collateral, the Guy Ritchie one, that'd be fab. So I can't find out who's
Any studio
releasing that over
listening,
here. Yeah,
just
please.
we're more than happy to take screeners to watch these films
If you
and
want
provide
honest,
this golden content that we're providing right now
honest,
with this
honest war movie reviews and weird insights into weird
trans and
transatlantic weapons
massive
deals.
tangents.
Where else are you going to
So
hear about
Chekhov's
Gatling getting his
bomb,
blueprints nicked?
right?
Anyway,
Right.
keep
Chekhov's bomb.
Chekhov's bomb.
But getting back to Chekhov's bomb, and the beautiful Doctor Strangelove reference.
It was sweet as, wasn't it? It's
that
so
I,
sweet.
Was so. I know Rob, and I was like, oh, Doctor Strangelove reference.
That people, that person behind you must have been going fucking mad. It was so sweet.
You say that, but there was a lot of people chatting, laughing.
Oh, there was. Yeah, I mean, it was
film.
everyone there knew someone, so they were just chatting together. But it's a great. So at the end of the movie, the German guy's trying to escape with not Sisu, Zelda, with Link's fucking gold, right? You know what I mean? With the immortal Finnish commando man,
the protagonist, yeah,
with protagonist gold. He's trying to escape with the gold, and Sisu man gets on, attaches himself to the plane with a shovel or an axe or something, and he like hauls himself onto the plane. This is the fucking maddest bit of the movie.
His prospecting pickaxe to
brutal strength to batter his way through the aluminium core.
I'd have been knackered after 10 minutes.
I'd have been fucked after all the killing I'd done. Jesus, is it worth it? Really? He left him one nugget of gold when he hung him.
He did, didn't he? That probably would have sad him set for life. But anyway,
ironically, he never looked in that pocket, so he might not have known. Anyway, So they get on the plane and they have this massive punch up. It goes on forever. If you watch a never-ending
in a
punch
good
up,
way.
fast show sketches like that, but more brutal. And he's like, why won't you die? All that sort of tropey shit. And Sisu Man doesn't die in a good way.
Yeah.
And then Sisu finally uses this hook thing he's been beaten up with to attach the German man onto the bomb, and he lets the bomb go. And then you get this sort of fuck you, and he's like flying through the air. But it is a bit of a reference to Doctor Strangelove. It's very
Definitely
good.
has the vibe.
And then the biggest fucking explosion you've ever seen goes off.
Yeah. And then the plane crashes.
But yes, Chekhov's bomb. The minute me and Matt saw it, we were like,
as soon as they show the plane in the interior, it scans over that bomb and you're like, oh, yeah, that's that's a device. That's a plot device right there.
Yeah, that bomb's going down.
But I think all in all, it was a really enjoyable film. Not a strict war film. Definitely some far-fetched parts, but really well acted.
There's far-fetched and there's believable within what you've already seen. And by that point, I was ready for anything.
Well, the film takes you along and you understand what it's trying to do. And I think that is a rare gift for some films in that you quickly perceive that this is not trying to be all serious
all the time.
Men.
Yeah. No. It has an audience.
Got some serious themes.
Yeah. But I read online there were some people that said they couldn't make through 45 minutes of it because it was not believable enough or anything like that. And I was like, what the fuck do you want from your war films? Come on. This didn't happen. It's not a documentary.
The dude gets shot at and he holds up his gold pan.
And
Captain America's his way through it.
I fucking love it.
From that moment on, you should know that this is not serious.
Just leave your brain at the door. This is a certain film for certain people. And I wish they make more things like this because I think the war genre as a whole has been crying out for something like this for ages because I think there's so much you can do with the genre that people don't do. And this is something
we talk about that quite regularly.
We do, yeah.
As a genre, the war movie is so malleable. You can do so much with it in terms of exploration of character, of even just something very simple and cathartic like this, because it has an element of that too. I think
it does really, yeah. There's definite baddies. They get bad stuff done to them. At the end, Sisu Man goes into the bank and says, "Can you change these gold bars into money, like physical money, because it'd be easy for me to carry?" And that's the end of the film. That's all there is. Yeah. And in a sequel,
that's the most lines he has.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, what are they going to do with a sequel? Is it going to be a prequel, or is it going to be him getting the money home?
Who knows?
Maybe there's like a gang of criminals that chases him or something. I don't know. It could be, couldn't it? Could just be like an endless series of films, him trying to get this money back to a safe or something. Could be. But no, I hope they do more. I hope this movie inspires more people to do something with the genre that isn't just here's band of troops, here's set piece battle, here's end of movie isn't war awful. Like war movies can touch on different genres. They can be irreverent. And this is my sort of argument to people who go, oh, well, this movie's silly. It doesn't have a place. Why is it there's something like this? Go and watch a Dirty Dozen. Go and watch something like these spaghetti Euro war films in the 60s. They were doing it back then and people loved them.
Well, having just listened to Dwayne Epstein's
Killing
book on Killing Generals, on the making of the Dirty Dozen.
Great, by the way.
It is. Hopefully we'll have him on the show and we can talk about the process of writing that. But it struck me as soon as we started watching it, the parallels were there.
Yeah, without a doubt. And they really, really are. And I think, if you listen to this show, I think you'll be worth your time. And thanks again for Sony Pictures for inviting us down. It's very kind of you. And Sisu will be in cinemas on the 26th of May in the UK. So if you're at a loose end one of these nights or weekends, why don't you go and treat yourself and watch Sisu? And we have not been paid at all for anything on our thoughts of this movie. We would let you know if we had done, and we haven't.
If we'd been paid, we would have been a lot more...
with less irreverent. I wouldn't have mentioned Gatling or the Russians.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. A little bit more cohesive.
serious. This is final film. They don't come for seriousness. They come for fucking. Last week it was 70s versions of the Dam Busters with Jalmari and James Holland. This week it's Robbie fucking doing blueprints of Gatling guns and Russians. Right. So I think without further ado, that brings an end to our Sisu review. Hope you enjoyed it. Go and see it if you can. As always, you can find the entirety of the back catalogue of Fighting on Film on our website, fightingonfilm.com. Give us a review or a thumbs up on whatever you're listening on. It'd be much appreciated. We'd love to read them. And we'll catch you next week for, I think it's going to be a triple show and tell episode where we'll just run through 3 war movies and 2 war movies and 1 cartoon that we saw lately that we enjoyed.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.